Hello, folks. Hope everybody's well out there. I'm Ray Haight, and I'm very happy to be the newly minted retention coach for TCA. And I really appreciate your time today. At the end of this presentation, you're going to see a couple offerings that TCA has come up with through its profitability program, and they're going to include some consultative work that can be done within your company, and also a very tight, structured plan to attack driver retention. This presentation is not just a sales pitch. Hopefully, it will give you a new paradigm on driver retention that you might not have thought about, and give you a different insight. So that's one of the goals here. Again, my name is Ray Haight. I'm past chairman of TCA, along with past chairman of PTDI and NATME. And I also ran a carrier for a number of years, drove 1 million miles, accident-free. 300 truck fleet that we had some significant issues with. We went from 120% turnover to 20% turnover. And what this is, for a large degree, is a retroactive look at the steps that we took to take that issue on. It is a driver retention issue and a plan, but it could easily be called a carrier safety initiative, because we went from hitting a lot of things quite often to winning 3 National Fleet Safety Awards through TCA. And that's because we became very good at what we were doing. And with a stable workforce, you can train your people. And training them in advanced defensive driving and other issues that affect their safety and well-being is critical to their success. So you can only do that if you've got lesser turnover than industry average, that's for sure. And it's also easily called a profitability program. During the time frame that we went from 120 to 20, we doubled our operating ratio, because we were taking out all the aggravation points with our driver, all what I call road points. And we became very, very efficient at what we were doing. And this is an effort that comes from the paradigm of the driver's perspective. And of course, most of the trucking companies that are in our industry were started by one driver, or one person, one truck type thing. And it's easy to lose that perspective. If you've been out of behind the wheel for any length of time and sitting behind a desk, it changes the way you look at things. But what I'm going to reveal is the step-by-step process that we went through as a carrier to take our turnover to where it was. And I'm also going to instill some thoughts through Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I think is very relevant to the situation and explaining the situation that we have with turnover in our industry. And I'm going to try to help you wrap your heads around transitioning your companies from being freight haulers to being companies that have a strategic advantage in the marketplace due to the driving force that you have and the people within your business. They separate you. They make you better. And hopefully we're going to get away from destructing all these families. And people go home on a regular basis in our industry to tell their families they have no job. They're either fired or they quit. And it is just abysmal, the record that we have. So we've got to turn that around. There's no better place to start with TCA's member carriers. First thing you've got to realize is this holistic approach. There's no quick fixes. We've got many great vendors at TCA that offer solutions in one form or another to your turnover, but typically those, what I call plug and play type applications, are going to be turbocharged and will have a much greater effect if they're offered within the confines of a holistic plan to turn your turnover around. It's just complex problems, so you can't expect that simple steps are going to cure it. But here's a real quick snapshot of what we did at our business to turn things around. We started with commitment and ended up down with the other items that you can see. The interesting thing for me is if you overlay this on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then it kind of makes sense, the pyramid type style. But, Maslow is suggesting to us, and I suggest that you go online and do some research on this and on individuals and in other sectors of industry. But Maslow suggests that once we get the base layers of this hierarchy of needs done, our minds automatically go up this pyramid. Once we get the physical needs done, and I equate that in our industry to the wage and driver wage, once we're satisfied that we've got that nailed, that we're competitive, we're not maybe the top of the market on what's being paid in the industry, but we're doing pretty good. Then we go right on to the safety needs. What's the equipment like? What are the terminals like? What kind of lanes do I run? What about the customers? Am I safe when I do this job? Then from there, we go to the social needs, which is communication strategy, esteem, which is recognition. And then we get to the self-actualization level, which is where you want your company to be ultimately. And that is helping people grow, helping them realize their maximum potential through different educational offerings. And you can also see the line there that says demotivators and motivators. Well, demotivators are things that will have a driver leave your company very quickly if they don't feel satisfied that they're being paid properly and they're unsafe. They will probably make it through orientation a few weeks, maybe a month or two, and then they're gone. Now, above that is the motivators. Above that is the sticky stuff, as I call it. These are the things that drivers are at your company and they're all of a sudden very informed about what's going on in the business. They're recognized for the good things they do, and you offer them ways to be better at what they do. They're the sticky things. They're the things that'll make drivers think, should I leave or should I stay? No, I think I'll stay. I don't know that I can get these things at another company. But before you get going on this, our program suggests there's actually 7 layers to this. One is building a foundation, because if you've got high turnover, chances are your people aren't exactly thrilled with what you're going to tell them. They're not going to believe it, and you're going to have to really make sure that you got the commitment from your people, specifically starting with senior managers and the ownership, leadership of the company, and then eventually down through all the employees. You got to sell them. You got to sell them hard. And there's great ways to do that. We talk about it, how you can do it. Certainly, there's great information coming through TCA Engage in the benchmarking groups and highlighting the great results from low turnover companies and how it affects the employees inside the walls, both monetarily and with innovation and technology. But you do have to recognize that this is change, and it will scare some people. And there are going to be some people, and potentially some key people, that aren't going to buy into this plan, and they don't believe you'll be able to do anything about it, about the turnover. So you're going to have to deal with those people, and we discussed that challenge with you also. So let's look at the driver's perspective. The driver's perspective, as I outlined earlier, this is the inverted pyramid now: a livable wage, safety, security, a sense of belonging, being recognized, and fulfillment. That's what this whole thing is about. Now, the leadership, again, cannot be autocratic. You cannot sit behind a desk and say, you will not leave my company, and you folks will take this turnover issue on. You got to get in there. You got to walk the walk and talk the talk. People have got to see that you're serious about it. So the foundation of the pyramid, and the core priorities, of course, one of the demotivators if you don't get it right. But unfortunately, we have been reduced to, in a lot of cases, just a number on a page. What do you pay? So you've got to get this straight, and it's one of the basic needs. And we do a lot of different, we have a lot of different teachings within our program to suggest to you how you go about finding out where you are in the marketplace. You don't necessarily have to be the highest, but your payroll strategy should match your strategic plans. So if you have a plan of growth, of course, you want to be up near the top of this number. If you've got one to, not grow, maybe maintain status quo, maybe you want to be middle of the pack or middle and higher. Well, maybe you want to reduce the size of your company. There's an easy way to do that. Just pay under market. But you got to make sure these objectives mesh with the retention efforts. What are your plans? And you've got to recognize longevity. We talk about this in our program. Drivers that have been with you for multiple years see a new driver come on, and week one, day one, they're getting paid the same as that individual. Then you're not really showing them the type of respect that they think they deserve, and they do deserve. So you got to recognize that professionalism and that longevity with your business, and you've got to take care of that. And we have teachings there that discuss that. A lot of companies don't get this basic level right. And they're the companies got 100, 150 plus turnover. And that's just where they're at. They're a demotivator, and they don't keep their people. So the safety needs. Once you're satisfied, the money's there. Am I safe? Am I secure? Is the equipment right? And I can attest to this, that professional drivers want to work for safe companies. And their families want to know that they are safe, and that a priority of their employer is to keep them safe. it's a great recruiting aid, and I see this as a gap in a lot of different companies. They don't discuss how good their safety records are, and believe me, it's critically important. And one of the ways you achieve this is standard operating procedures, just to make sure there's consistency in everything you do, and certainly with all the different interactions that you have with the driver. So you can ask each of your departments, what are the primary interactions, and do we have those primary interactions standardized? It improves quality, gives the driver confidence that everybody's been treated the same, which is very important to them. Once you get there, training for drivers can be offered. Again, certainly remedial training when things go wrong, but what about some of the things that raise the bar? You say you want professionals, how do you foster that professionalism? Offering safety courses that they can do voluntarily is certainly a great way to do that. Now, if you've got, the base level and the second level done, you probably, you've still got high turnover, probably around 100%, but, you haven't advanced up into the upper echelons of Maslow's hierarchy, and you've got these first two masters, and that's fine. You're good. Just do the rest of these things. The social needs, belonging, identification, acceptance, communication. I'm going to challenge you to think about this. You are in the situations with your spouses, with your friends, with your neighbors, with the job that you have. You're in those situations that you put yourself there. You're comfortable there. If I share information with you, it's because I enjoy you. It's because I entrust you. If I don't, it's because I don't really care. I don't really care to share information with you because you're not important to me. It's a pretty simple concept. So how do you do it? Well, you do it through a lot of different avenues. These are the things that we use: social media, children's Christmas party, golf tournaments, bulletin boards, newsletters. There's all kinds of different ways that you communicate with these folks. And you got to know who your audiences are. I mean, your audience is, not just your drivers, your owner-operators. It's people inside the walls. It's your customers. It's your vendors. It's the community you live in. And you got to give them the information. I've always contested that if you've got two people in an office, you've got a rumor mill, which is great if you recognize it and you stuff that rumor mill with all of the good stuff. And if you've got this one nailed, along with the first two, I'm going to suggest you're 50 to 75% is probably the range of turnover you're in. The self-esteem needs. Self-esteem needs are important. Every one of us wants to be recognized. We want a pat in the back when we do a little extra and we do a good job over an extended period of time. We want that respect. Everyone wants to be recognized for their efforts. Accident-free driving, TCA awards. TCA's got, of course, the Highway Angels, and they've got National Fleet Safety Awards. I'd love to see truck drivers walking through truck stops that say, I've been with this company for 5 years on the back of a leather jacket. We can offer, again, recognition for those folks who take some training and pass that training. You can figure out all kinds of ways to recognize drivers. Accident-free is certainly one that we've used for years in our industry. We got our suppliers involved in this. They were more than happy to contribute some products so that we could recognize the driver of the month and owner-operator of the month. And what do you celebrate? Well, longevity with the company. People got married, anniversaries, births, grandchildren, retirements, people who get new equipment, promotion within the walls. There's all kinds of good stuff that go on in your business on a daily basis. You just got to recognize it. You got to stuff that stuff over to the communications channels you've got. Get it out to everybody. Start getting people to feel good about what they do. This one worked for us very well. There's a big section on this in our teaching, which is recruiting by drivers. They always talk to each other. We did more than just a simple referral program. We taught the volunteers that we had, that we call on-road recruiters. We taught them and gave them courses in conversational sales. We told them what we wanted them to talk about. We made them be aware of the culture that we want to let people know we had in the business. And we recognized them very quickly, both socially and monetarily. As soon as somebody was hired through a driver and we made the decision to take them on, they were paid for that. And we've got some extensive teachings about this. And I'm going to suggest if you do this piece of it, you're probably 20 to 50%. You're in the upper echelon of turnover. Of course, the last one is self-actualization. Self-actualization, personal growth, fulfillment. You say you want professionals, here we go again. What do you do to foster that? What do you do to help these folks become the best that they can be? Here's my thought on truck drivers in the industry. It's been the same for years. There's three different types of drivers. There's the lost and forlorn. Those are the ones that are driving a truck just until they find out what their true calling is. Then they're going to leave. And quite often they never leave. They just come along and they hang out in transportation. They do a mediocre job, and we hire them. Then there's the truck stop cowboys. These are the ones that you see that drive by and they've got 100 chicken lights on the truck and chrome coming out every orifice of that thing. And I suggest to you that they're more in love with the vision of a truck driver and the independence than they are with really doing a real professional job. Then we got the last part, which I think is the majority of our drivers, which is the professionals. Now, these individuals would be very good at what they do no matter what sector of industry they went into, but they've chosen to be truck drivers. And they want to be the best they can be. So why wouldn't they go to companies that offer additional information to them? Notices of proposed rulemaking through FMCSA, new equipment coming down the pipe, what's going on in the business, educational opportunities through any multitude of channels. It's out there everywhere now. You know, the other thing that we did at our business is we offered all our openings within the walls to these folks. Now, we have a program and a chapter that deals with this in our teaching, but basically the minimum qualifications were posted for all job openings, but they all went out to our drivers. And if they chose to take on one of those positions, then they might have to take some additional education. They've got an interview for the job, but every one of them was offered to them. Now, I know that the vast majority of those individuals did not want to come inside the walls and enjoyed what they were doing. But you know what? The fact that we offered those jobs to them told them something, told them that we valued them, their opinion, their professionalism, their experience. You know, I was a truck driver for 10 years. I came off the road because my children came along. And my dad was a truck driver, and he was gone young. And I didn't know him that well. And that wasn't going to happen to my with my kids, and that's motivation for a lot of people. It could be some illness in the family. You don't know, but offer these things out. If you do, you'll be surprised how many qualified people you have. And again, you're achieving the fifth level of hierarchy needs. So the other thing that we did in our business is we had standalone desktops that our drivers could go in, and it had educational software on it. And they could take additional learning and training, educational pieces while they were waiting for a truck to get fixed or for a dispatch or for whatever. And we had 20% of our workforce taking these courses. It's fabulous. They do want to know these things. So, you know, if you've achieved all 5 levels, and there's a number of companies that have, then you've got very low turnover. You're under 20%, maybe just floating over 10 or less. You know, can it be boiled down to say that people stay in situations they like and they leave the ones they don't? I think it probably can be. If you think about it in context of Maslow's, there's no quick fix. You got to transition your company from where it is today to a place that people want to stay at. And there's no shortcuts to doing that. So here's the WIIFM, the Company-Wide. What's in it for me? 300 truck fleet, hiring $360 a year compared to 60. The net difference, $1.8 million in recruiting and onboarding costs. But really, I point that out because it's the one everybody discusses. But it's not really the one that, for me, has the most impact. It's here. It's sales. It's operations. It's maintenance. Sales. You got less service failures. You got a better qualified staff, and you can train them because they're not churning all the time. You're not mending fences all the time. You likely have the opportunity to go look for more challenging freight, maybe high quality or high value freight, but certainly quality of revenue will go up. Operations. Can you imagine training your entire driving force on an annual basis compared to 20%? You've got more time for the KPIs, whether that's empty miles, revenue per mile, no matter what it is. You've got more planning time. You can better utilize the assets that you've got in your charge because you don't have to train them all the time. Maintenance is a huge one. I use the example of a carrier with 20% turnover and a life cycle of the rolling stock and the truck being 4 or 5 years, when that stuff comes off, when those trucks come off and are ready to go into the used truck market, who do you think wants a truck that's only had one driver in it over its whole life cycle compared to coming from another company that may have had 5 to 10 different drivers in that truck? So there's huge opportunities there. And downtime and operating costs are reduced because you're not always having new drivers in there. And, you know, we're training these folks. So we're not looking for bad guys in any of this stuff. But maintenance comes to mind as a big one because, you know, when equipment's dropped in high turnover companies, new driver or the next driver picks up that trailer. It's got lights out. It's got a flat tire. It's got all kinds of issues that was not reported. You know, when you've got lesser turnover, you have less of those types of things because everybody understands the interaction with other drivers and that you've got to report those. Safety, it's an obvious one, but it's also one that relates right back to the benchmarking groups and TCA Engage, because we know companies with lesser turnover have better safety ratings. They have less insurance premiums, and they also have more training time. And it's a direct relationship to operating ratio. Administration. And one of the first things we were asked for at TCA Engage was for other people's age accounts receivable numbers. And there's a direct correlation to the time cost of money in people's understanding of paperwork functions of drivers at 20% turnover compared to 120. You know, as bad as it is, it's going to get worse. We've got minimum training standards coming in next year, 2019. We've got an aged workforce, and we've got premature mortality rates. The only way you're going to get out of this thing is to keep what you've got. And again, no one goes to work and wants to fail. There's huge impact to these drivers' families that we've got to stop harming them. And you just can't fix this with one thing. And, you know, people stay in situations they like, they leave the ones they don't. You got to build a sense of community, create a positive situation. Got to get everyone involved, especially the drivers. You know, take a look at this. You will reap the benefits of low turnover. Here's the offerings that we have right now, but my contact information is on the last slide. If you want to discuss any of this that I've talked, or you want to talk about these opportunities, feel free to shoot me an email. We'll set up a call time, no charge. Let's just shoot the breeze. I love talking about all this stuff and helping carriers get on the right side of turnover. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope you saw some benefits in listening to this recording, and I hope to talk to you soon. Thanks very much.